Hello folks, it's Jaff here from Clobber Records. How are you doing? I'm joining you for the second in my series of video casts entitled Dissecting Zen. If you remember last week, I was sat on a hill in a van and I told you all about why you were here, or not actually why you were here, because obviously I've got no fucking clue why you're here, but how it's not actually important to worry about why you're here or not, it's just important to live within the moment. And I started to bring in some fairly personal experiences, which was quite helpful for me and also appeared to be quite good for you guys, because I did receive some very nice messages afterwards, and also a few people when we were gigging up north last weekend said some very nice things. So I'm glad that these have been useful and have been enjoyable so far, and we're only on the second one, so bear with me because there's going to be a few more. This time I'm in a very white room, if you can see. It looks like there's a lab coat hanging on the back of the door. I've just moved house, so I've got to do some decorating. But this room is very sparse and bleak at the moment, so I guess it's probably pretty much finished. Oh, there's a guitar down there as well. And I've been listening to the new Mork album today. I don't know if you've heard it. Mork from Norway. Very true, bleak, old school black metal out on Peaceful. It's absolutely brilliant. It's called Det Svart Juv or something along those lines. Some Norwegian words that I've probably pronounced completely wrong, but there we go. I was never going to get them right. This video cast this week is entitled The Emptiness of Truth. It's not a very happy one. It's probably not going to be very funny. In fact, it's going to be downright miserable. So if you've got any fairly strong 3-ply tissues around, then grab them now or hop off and get some, because you might have a little cry during this one. Because not content with telling you that I have no fucking idea why you're here, I'm about to tell you why you don't even exist. So this is pretty awesome, isn't it? It all gets fucking happier every week round here with me. Who'd be a Buddhist, they say, miserable bastards. Anyway, this is about the emptiness of truth, and the truth is essentially what all of us experience on a daily basis, which is essentially ourselves. It's the only experience we can have. You can only experience life as you, as the self. And that means that I'm sat here talking to you, and I can only know what that feels like as me, as I, the self. And you only know how you feel today or what you're doing. I mean, I don't know what anybody's doing. You could be lying naked on your bed with a cucumber in your hand for all I know, but you only know what you feel like at this point in time. The President or Prime Minister of Australia or somewhere, Prime Minister, she, I think, or was it he now? They did have a she, I can't remember. Anyway, they only know what it feels like to be themselves. The 5 members of Obituary only know what it's like to feel like the 5 members of Obituary individually. An electrician from Market Harbour called Stanley only knows what it feels like to be an electrician from Market Harbour called Stanley. Although I suppose there could be more than one, but they don't know what each other feels like. Not in a weird way, because that would be very strange and probably quite inappropriate in Market Harbour. It sounds like quite a well-to-do place. So really, essentially every life experience that you have revolves around the self. We say, I am awake, I am hungry, I am angry. So it's all I. Everything is I. It's the ego, which is a word that seems to have some negative connotations to it, strangely, but it essentially just means the self, as you probably know, all you Latin scholars out there. Ego got a bad rep, I suppose, back in the 80s, when people used to put adverts in magazines, some band urinal blessings or urinal blessings, saying advert for a guitarist, no egos. Essentially, you're going to get an ego because everybody's got one, because we all have a self. But we need to understand this self, and we need to be able to view it in a different way. That's what Buddhism tries to teach us, and that's what certainly meditation and the way we think about our lives should be able to help us with, because it really, really has helped me. Because essentially it's a bit like a lot of you are musicians or have been musicians. When you're playing a gig, you're part of the show, obviously. Well, I hope so. If you're not, then you're doing it fucking wrong. And it's learning how to be able to go to a gig and watch a gig, which is a different experience to playing a gig, and and understand how to view life or view the self without constantly being a part of the self. There's something quite liberating about going and watching a show when you're not playing it, and that's really a really important way in which you've got to kind of view how you look at the self. You've got to step back and be able to look at it without having to be a part of it. So it's viewing this real truth that is ourselves. Buddhism analyses the self, the I, with the letter I, not the thing stuck in your head, or two things hopefully, or some people only got one. And it tells us what it attempts to analyse what I is, what the self is, which this is a bit complicated, by the way, so you try and keep with me on this one. And what it does is it expresses in four ways what it's not. So it starts off saying, is the self, the I, your body? Well, it can't be your body, because we refer to, not your body or anybody's body, I wasn't talking about your body. It can't be the body, because we refer to the body as my body. I say this is my body. So it belongs to something, it's possessive. So I cannot be the body belongs to the self. The same with the mind. We say my mind, I've changed my mind. So the mind cannot be the self, the I part of us, because the mind belongs to something which is the self. So you could turn around to me and say, well, the mind and the body combined, that makes I, that makes the self. Well, Buddhism is very clear that this is not the case, because if the combination of the two was the I, well, no, let me try and rephrase that in a different way, because it is quite a difficult thing to understand. Every member of Slayer, Slayer's a bad example because Jaff died. Every member of Anal Nathrak is in Anal Nathrak, so the whole is Anal Nathrak. No member of Anal Nathrak is actually in Slayer. So the whole, as a whole, Anal Nathrak cannot be Slayer. Anal Nathrak is Anal Nathrak. I hope you're keeping up with this. In the same way, the body and the mind are not I. Therefore, if neither of them are I, as a combination, they cannot be the self. So we write that one off. The body and the mind are not the self. So other religions will make it convenient for us, because that's what essentially mankind has done with religion, and say, well, the I is separate. It's a spirit. It's something that's not within the mind or the body. It's a separate thing. Buddhism says no, because if the body dies or decays and the mind dissolves, the I, the self, will not exist anymore. You can only exist in the reality, and if the reality is taken away, then I doesn't exist anymore. So essentially, if the I, the self, is not your body or your mind, or even the combination of the both, or something outside of it, then what is the self? What is I? And this is the terrifying truth. You don't actually exist. There is no such thing as I. There's no tangible way of explaining what it is. I is a concept that we have to create because of where we find ourselves at this moment in this time. And if you can understand that, it takes away a lot of the pain, a lot of the anguish, and a lot of the suffering that you experience on a daily basis. The emptiness is the ultimate truth. It's terrifying until you come to understand it and you come to accept it. And the reason many people spend a lot of their lives running around trying to find a way from here to the end of their life is because they're trying to fill the void that is created by the fact that none of us really exist, in inverted commas. Obviously we do, and I'm not expecting you to sit around philosophizing all day and night about whether you exist or not, because that would be fucking pointless. Really would be. The point is, you just have to understand that the emptiness is the truth, and if you can understand that and come to terms with it, then suffering will no longer be part of your life. You will be able to relax and accept that, quite honestly, there ain't a lot to lose. There's absolutely fuck all to lose, to be quite honest with you. So that was happy, wasn't it? Did you get your head around it? Possibly. It isn't the easiest thing to understand, and it will take a long time, and you might have to watch this back through twice to understand what I was talking about. I wouldn't bother, but if you want to, you can. And and don't get down about it. I mean, it's a fascinating concept. The last album, Shadow Flag, a band of which I am a part, album called The Delusion Machine, was all about this. It was about the terrifying void at the centre of everything. Because if you boil everything down, there is no answers. And that's quite fascinating in a lot of ways, don't you think? I think it is anyway. If you don't, then go and watch fucking, I don't know, Police Camera Action or something. Is that still on? Is that still a thing? Was that? Am I going all 19 freaking 70s or 80s on you again? I don't know. Wouldn't be 70s. So anyway, this is that's the Emptiness of Truth. The next video cast I'm going to do, I haven't got a clue because I haven't got the list with me. It'll be interesting, I'm sure. Probably slightly more happy than this one because that was a right miserable load of bloody shit, wasn't it? Crikey. Other things I'm enlisted to do, just quickly, because this is a record label video cast, so I'll talk a bit about music, even though none of these albums are on our label, Clobber, because we haven't got anything coming out for a bit, but I will be certainly referring to something in the next couple of weeks because we've got some exciting news on the horizon. I've been listening to the new Numenorian album, I believe that's how you say it, called Adore, which is on Season of Mist. It's very similar to Death Heaven, probably, that kind of black gaze type of release that many of you don't like because well, not many of you, some people get all uppity about it and say it's not true and it's not, you know, not real and it's bollocks, all that crap. I quite like it. I do quite enjoy it. I like Death Heaven. I think they're absolutely brilliant. I think everything they've done has been really, really good. So yeah, Numenorian going along those lines, really, really good. Also been listening to the new Helheim album, Rignir, which is out on Dark Essence Records. Really good. A band who have put out a lot of albums, or quite a few. Folky, proggy, Norwegian, fantastic. Really, really enjoyed that as well. So there we are. I've talked for too long again. I don't know where the time goes with these, but it does. Probably this, my gob. Enjoy your. I hope you've enjoyed your weekend because I believe this is going to come out on Sunday now. And I will catch you again for the next video cast. And I hope you got something from this. It was very deep, wasn't it? Bloody hell. Oh well. It's good to think about. I'm sure hopefully you'll get something from it. I didn't tell you too much personal this time, so maybe next time I will. I'll let you into some little gems from my past. Take care, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.